Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 13, Lucky 13. And we're going to be talking about the dev water coolers, talking about PvP changes, item squish, all that kind of jazz. And we're also going to be talking about, hey, I'm in new digs here, which means new computer, which means raid streaming, which means faster content putting out. Yay, all good stuff. And also, might I add, with a nicer computer and everything, I can actually run WoW on Ultra, which it's a pretty game. It's nice looking. I mean, maybe you've been running in Ultra all this time and you just sort of you take it for granted, but having gone from poor or fair settings all the way up to Ultra, it's kind of immersive, and you're in the world, and it's looking really cool. And so, be happy if you're at Ultra, because it's nice. It's really nice. And the game is pretty. It's beautiful. So, yay. Good stuff. Anywho, let's dive into the dev water cooler. So we got some additional information about Warlords of Draenor through some dev blogs and stuff from Blizzard. So, we'll talk about all the different changes. I'll throw in my 2 cents here and there, and we'll have some fun today, because, yeah. Anywho, let's get to my browser and see what the dev water cooler looks like. So first up, Stat Squish. What is Stat Squish? Well, if you haven't noticed, you have a lot of health at level 90. If you hit level 90, you have, maybe 400,000, 300,000 health, 380s, I don't know, something like that. My hunter right now has like 760k health, maybe, in raid gear and in buffs and all that other jazz. No, probably not. I think without buffs I've got that. Anywho, it's a lot of damn health. And tanks have, certain tanks have over 1 million. Whoa, that's a lot of health. And that's sort of the problem. It's starting to feel ridiculous. And the Stat Squish is all about squishing those numbers back down to a more feasible level, while still retaining the, smooth power curve as you level up, as you get extra gear. So, what does it look like? Well, they've got some nice graphs here that you can take a look at, and it's really hard to interpret this graph because this is what it would look like. This is kind of the level we're at with level 90. And this is what it would look like if they continued it all the way up to level 100. This is like, I don't know, this is a weird graph. But what they're trying to do is make it this little even line here that just barely goes up at level 100. Sort of very smooth. I don't know, the graph, I have problems with this graph. It just looks funky from the XY coordinates. I don't know. Anywho, the important part is you're going to be lowered in terms of your items and your stats and all that other jazz, but you're still going to be just as effective. So, for example, the little example they give right now, if you hit a creature for, close to 500,000 of its 3 million health, that's like 15% or something. After the Stat Squish, you're going to hit the thing for 30k, but it's going to have 200k health, and that's still going to be that 15%. So you're going to be as powerful, it's just that the numbers are going to be way different. And they're going to apply this in the pre-patch, so we'll have a few weeks there at the end there where we're going to have all these mechanic changes in there, and it's going to feel really weird raiding Siege of Orgrimmar with these numbers. They're going to obviously reduce all of the health of the bosses and the creatures and the everything too. And there's probably going to be some weirdness in those few weeks, but after that, when they get the expansion out, it's all going to, feel a lot better. So, Stat Squish, something they were looking to do for Mists. They didn't get it there. We're getting it in Warlords. Yippee. Good change. Probably should have had it earlier. Moving on. Racial talents traits. Racial traits. This is tricky. This is a little weird. not necessarily for what they're doing or why they're doing it, but how it's going to end up, could make some people mad, bro. So, if you're not familiar with all of the racial talents, racial traits that are out there, they have to change them no matter what. Or they at least have to change a few no matter what for the mechanics in Warlords. For example, Draenor have the 1% hit chance buff, which sort of lets them put stats in other places. They can reforge out a hit and put it in something else. Well, hit isn't even a stat in Warlords, so that's just kind of useless to have 1% hit. So they had to change, at least a few things like that. And they basically changed that for Draenor into, I believe, a flat crit bonus, I believe. I don't know. Anywho, they changed it into some other just straight up bonus to their primary stat, I think. Yeah, that's it. They changed it to primary stat. So, cool stuff. They didn't change Gift of the Naru. It's still a healing spell that the Draenor get. So that's kind of neat. And they've done that to most of the races. Like, Undead get this. And they've taken some things away from, obviously the Draenor had that taken away. But they've taken some other things away, like the dwarves. I think they took like mace expertise thing. Well, again, they had to take that away because expertise wasn't a thing. So they took that and gave them something else. So there's a lot of that shuffling around, and everyone sort of ends up with like a bonus to a decent bonus to their character. Like Tauren ends up with instead of a percent, their current one is 5% additional base health. Well, base health is a really crappy bonus because it's what you have when you don't have gear on, which at this point gear is so ridiculous. You get all your stamina there. So 5% of your base health is like nothing. So they changed it to more like a flat stamina bonus, so that makes that talent actually a bit more useful. Taurens are beefier. Yay! They should have been. But they also get like a 2% crit damage healing buff too. So everyone sort of gets like these little 1%, 2% type Majabis. Sort of like what Worgens and Goblins have at the moment. Goblins changes to like a straight up haste bonus as opposed to like a weird attack speed, cast speed. It was weird before. Now it's just like a straight up haste bonus. So cool stuff. I like how it's all tying together. But what people are going to do with this is they're going to look at what happened to their race and they're going to go, man, my race sucks now because I don't have that anymore. Or look at what that race got. They got this. Come on. That's what I want. And people are going to be very tempted to change their race because they're going to feel like, well, now I'm just crappy because my race is. And I'm here to tell you, don't do it unless you are like top 1% Majabi. People, they do whatever they want. Don't worry about it that much. If you think like currently you're a Tauren priest, which would probably be pretty rare at this point. But if you're that, and now the undead talent or undead racial is just ridiculous, and you really feel like you have to, I guess go do it if you like playing undead. But if you don't really like playing undead, don't do it, because then you're going to be unhappy later. And let me give you two stories to reinforce this point. One is my own. My hunter, in case you haven't seen any of the guides or me playing or anything, my hunter's a panda. And I forget whether orc or troll is the best for hunters, but anywho, I know that Pandaren is not the best race. But I like how the panda looks and acts and bounces around, and I just like the panda. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for that. No, take that back, Internet. I want that apology back. No, I ain't going to be sorry about liking my panda. But I'm not in the ideal race. If I were to be completely, utterly top end, blah, 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 I'm not in the best race. It's a pretty good bonus, the whole double food crap, but it's not the best. But I'm in a guild, and I have killed the fights. I've killed Siegecrafter Heroic in Siege, and that's pretty good. That actually, according to WoWProgress.com, puts me in the top 5 or 6% of all guilds, of all players out there. That's pretty good. I'm in the top 5%. I'm not the top 1%. I'm not killing Garrosh yet. But that's pretty darn good. So if you're looking at yourself and going, man, we just killed Garrosh normal. I wish my priest would be undead because he's a Tauren right now, and oh my god. No, 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 no. Stop. Don't. Play the race that you like, because here's a guy who's in the top 5%. I mean, maybe I'm not the top 5%. Anyway, just bear with me. Who's in that top 5%, who's playing a panda, and it's not the ideal race for a hunter. So, don't do it because of performance reasons. So here's story number 2. If you change to a different race, do it because you like the race itself. And the bonus, sure, if you want to do it for that reason as well, that's fine. But do it because you like the race. Because you might end up being unhappy with how the character actually plays. My guy I play with, he has race changed his Death Knight so many times. He's been just about every race you could be on the Horde side. And he always settles on Blood Elf. Why? Yes, it's a male Blood Elf. Why does he settle on a male Blood Elf when he should be ridiculed by all of the WoW community? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, male Blood Elves. Really, though? I had to say it. Why does he settle on that? Because he likes the animations. He feels like he can play the guy better because of how it's timed. It may seem silly, but it's true. He was like Tauren for a while, and he was terrible. Okay, maybe not that bad, but seriously, he just enjoyed playing the Blood Elf race because he got the timings or he got the animations right, and that just felt natural to him. Hopefully they don't mess up a lot of that stuff with the new character models and all that jazz, but if you don't like the race that you end up changing to because you panic and want that specific bonus, go back, because just be happy with the race you've got. So, racial changes, sort of looking good overall. Seems like everyone's going to get, a flat bonus to their stuff. There may be some shuffling around for people. People may still panic. And Blizzard ends up making a lot of money on race changes. Maybe that's their plan. Here's the cynical hat. But whatever. Kind of looks good to me at this point. Moving on. Ability pruning. So, this is something that they've also talked about for quite a while. Just basically reducing the number of spells that are in the game, period. And that may mean making rotations a little bit simpler. Probably not a lot of that kind of stuff, but just reducing flavor spells or reducing some stuff. So a good example for hunters that I know of already is that they're taking out Scattershot. Scattershot is just won't be there at all. It's not even a talent, not even a whatever. So what that means for PvP is in order to trap something, and they're changing traps so that they activate as soon as they hit the ground. What that means for PvP is that you actually have to shoot the trap where you think they're going. You can't just scattershot and then shoot it in that general area, just like you can right now. So it changes traps into sort of a skill shot kind of thing, which is neat. I don't PvP too much, so I'm not dead set against this thing or not or whatever. And this is just initial prunings. Who knows if that's what's going to stick. But there you have it. They're going to take out some spells, maybe some flavor spells, Eyes of the Beast kind of stuff that people aren't going to use very much. And they're also talking about combining cooldowns, like Paladins have 432 cooldowns as Retribution. Well, actually, it's all specs. So like Divine Favor is going to be baked into something else. So just stuff like that where there's less cooldowns, less buttons to push, less things to bind on your keyboard so that you can maybe have some more macros or something like that. So interesting stuff. PvE-wise, the bigger change that they were talking about, they haven't changed a lot of defensive raid cooldowns, but they did talk about Bloodlust Heroism was going to be the only offensive raid cooldown left there. So there would be no Skull Banner or Stormlash anymore. Which is interesting. I don't know. Probably, I don't know. I haven't played a warrior and I haven't played a shaman, so maybe that's not too oh my god to me. But anywho, an interesting note for PvE side. But anywho, a lot of this ability pruning is going to be coming via the next change, so let's sort of move down to it, and that's crowd control and diminishing returns. So this is the biggie that people are talking about. A lot of probably hurt feelings. I don't know. No, anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this one, and you probably want to check out a site like MMO Champion or follow the Twitters of the devs in order to get a lot of the details here. But they're doing a lot of reduction of just overall bloat in PvP. So, for example, first change, removing silence effects from interrupts. Silence effects still exist, but they're not attached to an interrupt. So that kind of means like when you've got like counter shot or silencing shot for a hunter, there's no longer a silencing shot. There's just, you can interrupt someone. And maybe that's like you interrupt the spell that they're casting and their sort of GCD is fired, but there's no like blanket silence after that for 3-4 seconds or whatever. They're removing that kind of stuff. So, interesting there. No disarms anymore. Okay. The more tricky change is diminishing returns. Diminishing returns is a big PvP subject in general. I'm not going to try to give a synopsis. Well, let me give you a synopsis of it. But basically, there are categories of crowd control that exist in PvP. So, for example, if you have 3 paladins in an arena team, they all have Fist of Justice. First one hits a target, that's 6 seconds stun. And right after that, the next paladin hits them. Then it's only a 3-second stun. And then after that, if the third one hits them, it's a 1.5 second stun. And then after that, any more stuns they're just immune. So it's that diminishing effect of the actual crowd control spell. And there are just like a ton of categories of diminishing returns. It's just like stuns are on one, fears are on another, this root effect is different from this one over here, and it's a mess that arena people, fret over and know a lot about. 'Cause it sort of creates a weird dynamic whereby you can have certain teams that are like, okay, mage, warlock, and this. Well, we can have a mage do polymorph, and that'll lock them down for 8 seconds, and then after that, the warlock can fear them, and that's another full 8 seconds because it's a different diminishing return category, and you end up like locking a healer down for 20, 30 seconds, and it's just ridiculous. The goal of some of this is to simplify that, so it's like maybe polymorph and fear don't end up being on the same thing, but there's just a lot less of that stuff to go around and calculate and figure out. They are removing many crowd control spells as it is, as they've noticed, and increasing the cooldown and putting some restrictions on others. So, precast CC is more limited. Cyclone cannot be spelled. Okay, PvP training, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, long fears are now shorter in PvP. And one example they gave was like the Warlock's fear, because you're running around and it puts you out of position so much. Instead of being 8 seconds, it's now 6 seconds. Again, these are initial changes. Maybe that they revert that. Who knows? But if you want to read up on, all the different changes, take a look at the Twitters, the dev accounts, and I think they're going to follow up with even more blogs on this as well. But a lot of the reduction of ability bloat, or many of the reductions of ability bloats come out of this change to crowd control and diminishing returns. So, interesting stuff. I'm not a PvP guy, but this is a pretty significant change for the PvP community. I've seen some tweets from some people I follow that are saying, oh, this is looking pretty good so far. We'll have to get more details, but there you go. That's the crowd control PvP part of all this. So that brings us to the end of this blog, and closing in on the end of the episode. But first, let me mention once again, I am going to be streaming a lot more now that I've got this new happy machine. Follow me on Twitter to see the announcements, or follow me on my Twitch channel. In both cases, it's at GetARaid, so twitter.com/GetARaid or twitchtv.com or twitch.tv/GetARaid, or at GetARaid for Twitter, or you can hit me up on TankSpot or follow, just lots of places to follow me. But anywho, I'm going to be streaming, and I'm, going to be on this schedule now of at least streaming on Sundays from, what would it be, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time to 12:30. I'm doing the calculations in my head because I'm in Central Time. So 9:30 to 12:30 Eastern Time, p.m. And doing that on Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. At the very least. My stream will be up during those times, as long as there's no, weird lag or internet problems or whatever. I'm going to start scheduling that. So sign up for that, or follow me on Twitter or Twitch TV. Follow me on there. Beyond that, maybe I will start streaming a lot more on other random stuff. If I get into the beta, please, Blizzard soon. I will certainly be streaming just me playing the beta and, cutting videos out of all that kind of stuff. So look for that. Start getting used to me as a regular streamer in terms of, the evenings times. And maybe I'll stream me playing some other games. I was playing Loadout tonight with some friends. Kind of cool, interesting game. But beyond that, I'll be streaming a lot of WoW. At least raid nights, maybe more stuff. For example, I might actually try to stream, well, this episode's going to be up after this, but I'm probably going to try to stream challenge modes that I'm doing with new guildies. So anyway, check me out on streaming and let me know how the quality is, and let me know what I can do to be a more entertaining streamer, because I kind of want to, get good at that too. New venue, new adventure. Yay, adventure time. Anywho, hope you enjoyed this episode. It's Overrated number 13, talking about the Warlords information, the blog, the crowd control, the item squish, ability bloat. Yay! Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.